podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you can please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee.
All right. So we are into the week that it is and the day of our lives and whatnot there. And man, lot going on in the world, but we're gonna try to have some fun today. I'm sure there'll be some doom and gloom to talk about or serious matters of the state.
Dude, you're horrible shit to talk about. But
right. But today we're gonna start out. So in news of I guess the most clipperish things, Chris Paul was basically, I guess, asked to go home. I don't know, like released, and it was sort of this idea that
they didn't release him.
They didn't release him, but also that like this year he was going to be like, I'm retiring, so it was almost like a farewell tour, having him on the team. Or at least that was the energy, and him coming back to the Clippers, which is sort of like the old man Olympics of teams in some ways, because they're kind of are filled with like older vets, really across the board. I think now even, but have been a competitive team somewhat still, at least when Kawhi is able to play. And they stink right now. And then they said that like, Chris Paul, you just go ahead home. Like, we ain't gonna release you, but it's cool if you don't come to work the rest of for an indefinite amount of time.
Yeah.
And it has raised a interesting, if you read, I haven't got to listen to as many of my basketball podcasts this week that would normally kind of maybe, I'm sure I've talked all about it, but I've got to do some reading and some of the facts or the issues or whatever is being stated. So in any event, I guess as a mix of feelings there, but I guess I want to start off just like, what was some of your thoughts, like, chopping it up on this particular topic?
So I guess it's a running part of a lot of our dialogue around systems and people and interaction and age and expectations, right? Let's level here because we got a lot of people who listen who aren't necessarily the biggest sports fans.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, first ballot NBA, without a question. He's going to go in one of the best point guards ever played a game. All those things resuscitated the LA Clippers, who, like you said, are the Clippers. Like,
Clippers.
It's hard to describe a worse
franchise
in the history of American sports. Like, like this is one of the toughest ones in all of American sports. Even when they've won, it seems like there's always a dark cloud over the Clippers. However, so I want to state that and note that. I also want to note that it is generally known that Chris Paul is an asshole.
Yeah,
he's acerbic.
He's not known to be
he drinks on
warm type, as it were.
And part of it is because he's really good at what he does, right? So he's a point guard, so he's a coach on the floor. And as part of being a coach on the floor, you got to be the one to tell someone they're making a mistake, holding people accountable, structure, all the kind of words that we all like, except when it's said to you, right? Like, everyone likes to be the asshole, except when someone's being an asshole to you.
Everybody likes accountability and structure until it's them that's been like, hey man, you didn't pick up that, you're supposed to get that report done today. We can't move forward. Like, I'll hold up, y'all. Wait a minute, I have some stuff happening. You know what I mean? But when it's everybody else, it's like, you need to say, you gotta say something to them about that. You know what I mean? But not me so much, but
So it's like, so there's this idea of what you don't do to an elder statesman in the league. Yeah. But then there's the reality, and I'm sure you'll touch on it, of like, here's the truth. People give you leeway when you win. And that's in anything. when you win, they don't look at what happened. When you lose, they remember what happened. So when Chris Paul's being an asshole to all these people throughout the time he's been in the league, you know it, but no one really gets over it because why? He helps people win. Chris Paul's been on 3 different teams in 3 different years.
Yeah, that's not here.
There's no accident there either. Yeah. Right? And so when you're going 72-10, or when you're like the Oklahoma Thunder, we don't know when you're going to Oklahoma City Thunder. We don't know when you're going to lose a game next. You might lose a game in March. People accept stuff. But when you don't win, when we're 5-16, people don't accept you talking to them crazy. So I just want everybody to know out there, when you're winning, people okay talking to you crazy. But when you're losing, no one's okay with getting talked to crazy, dog. And so I think it's a really interesting thing as we see this set of heroes or legends transition. We saw kind of how Melo transitioned, and I think, you can argue however he was done by different teams. I think he was able to kind of, frankly, resuscitate his own.
Yeah, his own. Yeah, like the image of him, especially the image of him at the end, because it was being framed as if he was not aware that he was sort of at like the place in his career where he needed to transition a little bit and be more flexible, and it was being framed as if he was just being like, nah, I'm I'm still this, and as it turned out, that wasn't necessarily the case either, even if the situations didn't go well, but it was like, and it's the piece that I think about, like some of my first thoughts about this, but I didn't want to cut you off. I think you have one more thing. Because the one thing, we're in this moment with this group, especially of veterans and aging stars, where we have committed to this idea that we should reasonably expect you to still be a highly effective professional NBA player past the age of 36. Right. In a way that I find sort of like, so ain't nobody gonna say out loud, hey man, you 36, dog. Like, you may not be able, even like, no matter who it is, Steph, right? Paul George,
yeah,
you know what I mean, like Kawhi. I don't know. I think Kawhi almost 30. He's closer to 36 than to 33. I'm pretty sure.
He's over 60-year-old.
His body more retired than mine, I think. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm retired. I tell somebody that I'm retired from pickup basketball. Like, you might get me out for a game of rough, maybe. Like, I've been training, but otherwise, I'm no sir, no full court. Unless, anyway, like and so, I think Chris Paul was like 41 or 42,
something like that.
And and this was even coming back this year, was sort of like a coming back so he could retire, like, right. So he could be like, officially, I'm retired, because it's kind of like you missed the window to pick to retire. And oddly enough, maybe we'll talk about this later, but I'm looking over there at you, LeBron. I think we might have crossed the threshold where it's like, LeBron's gonna be, but then it's like one day one day it's over. Like, one day it's over, right? And so there's that. Then the other piece, though, that I think is interesting with this is and this is a thing that I think is transferable, not always just by age, but sometimes by the circumstance of a relationship or a given space, like a movement time or a run of either whether public service or otherwise, or like a business run where you had it cooking. You know what I'm saying? You was one of the best. And then, conditions change, situations change. Just like, hey, man, might be time for you to transition to a different role. But like, you're like, nah, I'm still the number one leader in the community. Like, I'm out here, like, in the community context, or, referencing what's the show, The South Side. Like, I would be Chicago's number one DJ. It's like, nah, man, like, he passed and he didn't pass you the mantle. Like, the mantle's going to somebody else. But sometimes, a person that, has demonstrated that he could make a winning team. Like, again, like, if me and you was in shape, and then like 7 dudes that could really play basketball at a pro level, like, we still would probably at least be competitive. If Chris Paul is your point guard, like, if you just shut up and listen or take the cut he tells you to take, and that he had that level of impact on the floor, even that OKC team, and it was like he was like a throw-in, and like
Like, it was like, oh, well, you know, Chris, you don't got to take it too serious. He's like, nah, man, Chris Paul, this is serious. And they won, you know, they was like a 500 competitive team. Right. It wasn't supposed to be, right? It was just supposed to be like, well, you know, we're going to reboot and then we're going to try to get you somewhere else. And his approach to the game was, nah, if I'm playing, I'm playing. Again, with that, you know, it's probably some funky language. It's some, you know, he's from a generation. If you ever watch, you know, I don't remember it off the top of my head now, but the documentary he made about Black college basketball and the history of it, and that who his grandfather was and the tradition he comes out of, it's like, it's serious business. It's serious business, North Carolina basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like the state of North Carolina, not the university, the state, Black community, you know, reality of playing, of hooping. And, you know, but with that, it gets to me like, yo, man, you ain't even charged around here, man. Who you talking to? I mean, you know, I'm sure there's some power dynamics. There's some, I mean, he's someone I imagine will be a coach. Like Chris Paul will be a coach. Right. And he'll probably be a good one, I think, you know, but like, or at least if the people shut up and listen, the team will win, right? Like, right. Yeah, I mean, but in the meantime, it's like, hey, man, look, you supposed to be on, like, we going to bring the rocket chair out at some stadiums, or we go back, like, all the other teams you played for. They're going to be like, man, we really appreciated your contribution to the team when you played here, Chris Paul. But you can't be the guy that maybe could talk a little crazy, say things, you know, I think there's some implications that he may be saying some things contrary to what, you know, Coach Lue is saying. And, you know, I don't know him and James Harden's relationship. Like, you know, there's enough pieces that is like, the position that you're in currently is not the position you were in 4 or 5 years ago when you were on the cusp of winning the NBA Finals, basically, in Phoenix. And then it just sort of is all unraveled since then. And it's like the end, again, I always think about this with basketball players, particularly the sports, gives you this framing to see it. But I think this understanding the phenomena of that, the conditions for you to be as successful as you were have changed. It's not something we always see until somebody's kind of got to give you the, hey, man, you know, if you just go to the crib and don't come back the rest of the week, we'll be in a better situation. You're like, wait, be me? You don't want me? And it's like, yo, things come to an end. And you know, it does not necessarily means anyone's bad.
I think your point, God, is spot on. Number one, you know, there is a level of delusion, right? The island of Delulu, as they say, right? That people who are really good at something tend to vacation at the island of Delulu a lot, right? And you have to be able to vacation there to will yourself through things, right? To will yourself through pain, to tell yourself you're the best. I mean, we got a whole bunch of stuff now that we have research that say you keep telling your brain something, your brain thinks it's true, and sometimes you can actually do the thing that your brain told you could do, right? Which is why we don't want kids to be told the dang shit, right?
Yeah,
we don't want to.
Right, because then it was AIA, you know.
Dang shit, right? So we know all these things, like, you know what I mean? We know how the brain works. So because these players are on the island of Delulu often, they sometimes can't see when the thing has changed. Right? And if you remind them that the thing has changed, you're disrespecting their legacy. And it doesn't mean we're disrespecting your legacy. It means the thing has changed, and figuring out how to shift with it while bringing your best to it is what actually shows you're a legend over time. Right? Acknowledging when you got to go to the bench, or acknowledging when you got to go to the front office, right? Or acknowledging when you got to go to be a broadcaster, or just acknowledging when it's okay to go away. Because, you know, in this podcast world, and it's the pot calling the kettle absolutely dark as midnight while we're on podcasts and we rail against podcasts. The only reason we can get away with it is we've been podcasting for a long damn time. Exactly. Right? We're not new to the thing, because there is something to be said with the fact that every basketball player that ever picked up a basketball now is a podcaster.
Yeah. And other various pro athletes of much less fair and fame.
Right. Like everything you watch. So there's something to be said about it. Obviously, some of them do it very well, and some of them maybe not be. I happen to think Vernon Maxwell is absolutely hilarious.
Oh, I love it.
Listen, for anyone who's listening, whether you like basketball or not, Vernon Maxwell is worth the price of admission.
Listen, yeah, absolutely. Good times.
So I think there's that. Then there's this, another good point you made is, when do you see this in other worlds? When do you see this when you're the head of a movement, you become defined by the movement become defined by you. People know you, they honor you. What does transition look like? And transition doesn't take anything away from you. It actually gives you more, right? And, we talked, and I am a full proponent of, like, I always find it interesting when you don't know who a community's leader is, but that community is functionally doing okay. Because what it shows you is that it's not about the actual person. Frankly, in movements, in the Black community, I think I know enough to say in some of the Latino and indigenous communities, that this idea of, like, I have to take care of the ship because I was the third captain, not the only captain. I was the third captain. And what does that do to everyone else when it's time to step up? When it's time to say we have to keep the ethic of what we have been doing, but maybe not the aesthetic. We could take it back to Chris Paul and say, whatever our old man tendencies that we say, oh, sports ain't the same no more. Kids don't want to be talked to no more. They don't want to be cussed out.
Don't want to be coached hard. You know what I'm saying? You got to be coached hard.
And on one level, I get to another level. It's like, okay, well, if they don't want to be coached hard, you can't coach them hard. Because if you're not winning, then who cares about your old perspectives? It's like going to another country and being like, oh, look at these people. Don't want to give me no exceptions on my order. No changes on my order.
Yeah, they said they can't take it. They can't take the onions out.
Well, then starve. Like, because it's a system, and you're either going to engage with the system or you're not, right? And I think Chris Paul is the most telling, glaring example of, maybe it's a point when your old methodologies were tried and true until they're not like that anymore. Again, say what we will about this team, Oklahoma City Thunder. Like I said, we don't know when they're going to lose. I'm sure they're hard on each other in practice, but arguably the best player in the league is a Canadian kid from Hamilton in Toronto who seems pretty, to himself, as he gives you 30 and 15 every night, right? Like, so, maybe it ain't the thing that you think it is. And I just want to put it out there for our listeners who, from all we can tell, tend to be people of a similar age or, kind of similar perspectives and takes on the world. Like, be okay when the game changes.
Yeah. Like, it's all right to go, this ain't my, I'm gonna go ahead and let me step to the left on this one. Like, this may be my time to be in a different role. And I think, sometimes our structural engagement with a system that pressures on us, especially in our community, like I said, we can lose sight of the conversation about needing leaders, being that implying that the challenges of the circumstance that we face they're not necessarily due to the lack of leaders, due to the conditions that created unfair, unhealthy, and oppressive, engagement with, other powers and resources. And that's, obviously a bit much bigger issue than playing basketball. In the world of understanding, like, if you're the person in the mix in any given situation, and the world again starts to move, and the conditions are not the same, and the for show right on rule is that the world is changing.
That's
it
right.
Will not be the same, and the fantasy that we can sometimes convince ourselves, it's like it just was like it was. Like, no, it's not. It's actually totally not like it. Like it's not like it was. It's very close to like it was. It still follows the same general rules and laws of physics, science, whatever have you. Water's still wet. Oxygen still, two CO2, two oxygens and hydrogen make a water molecule, but it ain't. But everything, the other the conditions and where you're situated will move, and then you're moving. And when you get to the place in a situation like someone like the good brother Chris Paul, and it's like it can become there's not really a way to fix this. Like it's not necessarily reasonable to suspect like Chris needs you to like we can't tell you just like come to the meetings but don't talk for the rest of the year. Like that's like yeah. So just go ahead and go to the crib, man. Like it's cool. Like we don't want to be disrespecting you is what I imagine, and we don't want you in this situation where it ain't really helping. And your approach is probably making it a rough day. And again, to make that transition to some other other spheres of worlds, it's like that we've all been in whether it's a movement space, been in a professional space where it's somebody who's been great, and they're just the way they're coming at it right now, it ain't working. And you may have love and admiration for them, and you don't want to be in this like an argument, but it's like, yo, you like fam, we need you not like you need to like it would be best if you just let somebody else take the wheel right here. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. Income that comes from all of us.
We all have an old uncle or old aunt who come to your house and tell you the way it used to be, and beat the hell out your kids. Kids better seen than heard. And, you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff, man. And let's say right on for there were situations that maybe Black folks was in that adherence and discipline was like focus number one. That was a game. Like that was the most important thing in the world, because people could die from talking at the wrong time and doing the wrong shit. Like, it's not that long ago that you could look around.
It's not that long. Yeah, like definitely
from the wrong statement and all this kind of stuff. So I get that, but that doesn't mean we got to be careful for those of us as we get older, not to be the uncle coming to people's houses talking about you should put plastic on your couch because the kids are gonna spill something. Like, don't nobody want to burn their leg when it's hot on that couch because that sharp ass plastic edge. And everybody that's been on a plastic couch know exactly what I'm talking about when it's hot and you can't get up and you done burned your leg on that sharp edge of that plastic couch because they wanted to protect it. It was a mausoleum. It wasn't furniture.
You ever get the thigh sweat from sitting on the plastic couch, and then like you don't know if you're allowed to get up? You sit on the couch like, man, my legs is all sweaty.
Move to the side to get up.
What's wrong with you? Why you shifting?
Was in them other old cars. Remember them old cars when the seats was hot, and in the summertime you be in the back and you like burn your leg, man. So you put your leg up a little bit, but they be like, "What you move your leg? I'm about to take off. I'm about to pull off. Move your leg."
It's hot.
It's hot.
I got it. I'm tired.
My thigh hurts. So man, listen, man. I mean, Chris Paul, A1 professional, A1 Hall of Famer, but I think the bigger picture is like, when is it time to make a transition? And knowing when to do it. If there's ever a time better to be early than late, it's when your voice no longer is listened to in a second.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the only thing I would add that is just to say, like, yeah, sometimes if you have the option to choose your exit as opposed to be pointed to the exit, go ahead and choose your exit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like, hey, signing out. And they be like, oh, where you go? Oh, man, it's time. And they be like, oh, man, it's not time. You be like, oh,
so I think it's time.
It's time. I'm not going to kick me off the curb. I'm just going to leave.
I jump off the curb. Won't kick me off the curb.
Right. I've been throwing out a better juke joints than this. So in other news, so you had brought up with I hadn't even tracked the some of these recent records and new music by several, I guess we could call them legacy or older hip hop artists. So you said, I know Ray. Is the Mobb Deep John on there? Yep.
Ray, Mob, Ghostface, the Big L, posthumous release from Big L.
Yeah, all on Mass Appeal, which is
Mass Appeal.
Nas's label, and
And the De La.
and the De La joint, and you know, again, we've come around to this and had some of this, like, touched on these issues of, like, this notion of hip hop specifically as a music, like, only being for the young, and if someone old is doing something that, you know, I don't know, it's whatever. But, you know, this is like good music that they're putting out. And I just, so I wanted to, like, pass to you first to give a little context of what was some of your thought about these recent happenings.
Yeah, I think it's much in the vein of this, the reverse polarity, if you will, for all those who understand that term listening, of this idea of know when to leave. It's that sometimes you don't have to leave before you're ready to leave. And I think, you know, we talk about this, the infantilization of culture, the yousification of culture, because we assume that that's where people buy stuff. I think the American business is coming to a different place around that, of like who buys stuff where. But I think that has been a big thing around music for a long time, right? And how music was consumed, that was consumed by young people. But you gotta, I was thinking about this. In the world of streaming, it changes the math. Because before it was like, who's gonna go buy an album? Well, it doesn't matter if you're 67 or 17. Every time you listen to a record, you get the 0.03 cent, the same. So the idea of the consumption of culture, specifically from a music perspective, kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? So like the youthfication and the infantilization of it doesn't serve the music in the same way, which leads me to then think, well, who does it serve when you infantilize culture? You know, leave that for a day when, you know, they say go deep undercover.
Go deep.
But like, who does it serve? That being said, again, we talk about it being a young person's game. The music has shifted in a lot of different directions. And I don't want to act like it had not shifted in a lot of different directions before, because we're old enough to remember when hip hop albums all had a house song, or they all had a reggae song.
Yeah, I had a house song, right? Or like a dance song at the end.
The
like,
last song was always like a dance hall or a house song.
Like it just was starting like, wait, what's going on here? Right.
Yeah, like when Shaba was on it be Coming to My House, Queen Latifah, and all those songs. Good. Shout out to New York and shout out to North Jersey. But like, so we had that before, but I think drill, Afrobeats, any variation of the term you want to use, and now kind of the slow, not infiltration, because that would mean I don't like it or it's bad, but the slow engagement of like country in hip hop and rap, as you will, or whatever, has gotten it to a place. And then you have now an infrastructure uniquely that artists can create their own infrastructure to actually release their own music. So we're at a place now where someone like Nas, who has been in the record business since 1991, like he's been in the record, and I mean, put that in perspective. He's been in the record business for 34 years.
34. Yeah.
From Live at the Barbecue. Now knows how to package, release, engage music on musicians' terms. And the music has shifted that everyone doesn't need big producers, big studios to actually produce good music. So it's actually a democratization of sorts. You reduce the cost of producing the content and you can get it out. I was listening to Ari Emanuel the other day talking about like brands. But one thing he said was interesting. I hadn't thought about this. Just he said like basically The Rock is his own distribution label. Because The Rock at any point could put something out and however many millions of people get it immediately. If he puts out a song, 2.8 million people have access to it the second he releases it. If he did a commercial, whatever he does, like literally these people are their own distribution channels at this juncture. So the structure of music and culture has changed that I think now older artists can produce like adult contemporary hip hop in ways that allow them to produce quality music. And so I really was just thinking about it because the new De La album, obviously with Plug 2 and his unfortunate in his demise, unfortunate death, when you listen to the album, you know, he's like all over it by thought and idea, but it's actually just like beats wise, rhymes wise, just a really, really quality project with a lot of quality artists on it to tell the story and the transition of what happens when a group who just recently got their quote unquote freedom from Tommy Boy Records from the old model, when it's time to produce an album, 1/3 of the group dies, like an important person dies. And like the trauma that you hold with that, right? Again, these are complicated ideas that we all have to grapple with that hip hop is not touching. A lot of music is just not touching on.
Yeah. And it's something interesting too, that this, you bring this up for us to add on about, got me thinking about that, you know, I'm zooming towards my 50th degree day in a few months. I went to a dear friend and a good brother. That was my barber here for years. He had a 50th degree like birthday party that was put on, and like people came, and birthdays sometimes, birthdays like everything else is just something we as humans have decided to track. They're not not the immutable or some like firmament of the universe that you must celebrate. But sometimes it can make you mindful of things, you know what I mean? And like even that you bring up there with De La, that you entered into this industry that was nascent and new still when you started. The industry had structure, predatory structure that pre-existed you.
Absolutely.
Right? That leveraged your drive to create and to do with the like, well, we can, we have more access to help you get to the market and in the age of physical media, that thing needed to be printed, like all the stuff, right? That you didn't need to also be a part of a traveling experience, but you also wanted to tell these stories and sing, talk about these issues, like do the stuff that you do when you make the music. But then again, puts you into this structure, even into the new weird structure that could be predatory, that you still didn't have control, and you finally get it right, and then that you're not with us, but you still had stories to tell, right? And the thing that I've been thinking about myself, as I guess making this particular, heading towards this particular age transition, is that like it's pretty reasonable, barring some unforeseen issues. I'm probably gonna be around closer to another 50 from this one than not. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, brother, like I eat right. People love me. Like all the health indicators of a man that will live longer, I got most of them in the right spots, right? And I so thinking about that in tune with creativity, the assumption that I shouldn't, either one, artists that are part of my timeline in history, that they should, like, one, because I'm not going to stop being me because I turned 50 or I turned 61, in 11 years I turned 60. So I'm like, well, at that point I'm retired. I'm going to just stop living life and stop having things to think or talk about. I'm just going to go outside and look at my apple trees or something. Like, the artist, if you got something to say, you go keep saying it until, Buddy Guy, people were reminded when Sinners came out last year that, Buddy Guy is still playing the blues, right? And he gonna keep playing the blues, right? Like this notions, these assumptions about what artists should or shouldn't do, or what the timeline is for your creativity, because ultimately it gets into a deeper conversation about, well, what was the actual goal? Like, if it's like, okay, yeah, no, maybe you're not gonna be the most popular artist in all of the world and the #1 pop star, and you're gonna, but why is that the goal? Why is that the standard? Right? The standard was the creativity. What is the standard? There's other standards that we're measuring the value of producing, and the relationship with those who listen to what you bring to the table. Like, then we actually, and this is something I sometimes have to say in other spaces, because I was in some training spaces around, legislative policy and things this weekend, and have people think about, like, we do have control of our terms of engagement, whatever the intentions of others are in terms of power and structure, right? Like, we're going to have to probably wrestle, but if we're in something because I enjoy going to, like, I was eating pizza with our brother yesterday, and in the spot we was eating, they was playing some house music. And so 2 things I enjoy. I was eating pizza, and house music was playing. And I'm talking to my brother. I'm like, kind of like, me, I get to eat. And I started being like Winnie the Pooh. I started dancing in my seat a little bit. Like, oh man, this pizza's delicious. And the house music was kind of bumping, right? And then I'm reminded of like dancing hard at parties and sweating and having just a damn good time. And that, I can't dance as hard as I danced in 1994, but I can still dance at a party, and I will dance at a party. Actually, I'm looking forward to an opportunity to dance at a party and enjoy myself and immerse myself in the experience of music. Just because I'm older doesn't mean it's like, oh, I want to go sit down and just think about dancing. Nah, like, we all seen our elders go to a cabaret in they 70s. Like, yeah, they have a cabaret down at the Gaslight tonight.
At the Elks, right? At the Elks.
At the Elks Slide, at the Elks, and the VFW, right? So there's no reason that we should assume that activity should end or have some, because those are actually things that are a part of a healthy, well-lived life, is dancing to the music that you love, being with people, your friends, and acquaintances at large, and enjoying a night together or afternoon party or somebody's celebration or someone's anniversary or something, or someone's retirement, whatever those milestones are. And music should continue to move with us in that way. And it don't need to be for everybody. It can just be for us or for those that like it. And that's cool. So I dig that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of going again to this democratization, this reducing the barriers around content creation.
Mm-hmm.
We see the barriers that have been reduced around content creation for things that are harmful. If we think about the reduction of that it can cut the other way, though. You can reduce the barriers for content creation for things that you like and that you want to see, right? And there's never, in some senses, been a cheaper time to produce a thing of relatively high quality than today. And the cost of it will continue to come down, right? And, I know we haven't done a whole AI episode and all things, but part of the interview that Ari Emanuel was saying was that it boosts people that do things well. They will be able to do things well faster. There will be some carnage.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. But if you had an idea, now you have, instead of a person to put your idea and talk to and give you feedback, he said, like, he was using the example of like working on a script, and he was like, but it took him months. He put it, the producer he was working on put it together. It came back in a couple hours, but like he had gained 3 months in that time. Now he was a producer of content, so it helped him. It sped his production of content, right? Again, there's going to be loss there. I don't, this is not one of those like everything's going to be all right things, but like with that, it, just reflecting on the ability to create the conditions and ideas that you want to see. Because often we talk so much about what systems do, and we know what systems do when they're harmful to people at times. But also now with those means of operation, what things do you want to see, and what role do you play in creating the things that you would actually like to see? And I think that the Mass Appeal example of Nas and a host of other people who are, working on that label, I think it's a great example of kind of a cottage industry of artists who can go anywhere in the world to perform with a new record and have merchandise and hard copies of vinyl and hard to get things that you can only get if you came to the concert. That then will allow them to take care of themselves and continue to produce the music, which gets rid of this idea of the mad rapper, right? I was thinking about that with all the shit with Mr. Combs, because I was listening to Before Kicking the Door by Big comes on, and it talks about the mad rapper, and it makes you think about what is the context of the mad rapper. The context of the mad rapper is someone's successful and they aren't, and like that person has figured out a way to make a lot of money in a predatory system, as we now know how predatory the system actually was and is. Mm-hmm. And the mad rapper was saying that he was mad because he could not make that amount of money because he did not have access to the means of operation and the distribution channels that this other person did because of what they were saying. Where in this day and time, there's no reason for you to be mad because record labels barely have any money. shit, Netflix just bought Warner Bros. Like
Yeah,
the entire thing is changing around us. And I guess just this is like point A of this, like 1A, like, or 2A. The entire structure of how we receive information, data, of how we receive messages and content is changing in front of us. And we need to be aware of that and aligned with, again, the production of content that you would like to see, and then supporting that by in the means that it comes to us. So shouts out to them for, and the De La album is a really good album. Pasta News, I think, is an underrated rapper.
Oh yeah. Pasta, I think, is overlooked sometimes by folks in the context. Again, we treat people in groups differently than like artists we perceive as individuals in terms of what their verse, their offerings to the rapping. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah, I mean, like we you know, when he said if okay, has a deeper than a Bob Deep track. There's only one way to show it. You know what I'm saying? Like these sorts of, he's got plenty of pieces over the years that are, you know, speak to his quality as an MC. And I do also appreciate the name of the record, you know, Cabin in the Sky. I believe is that an Oscar Michaud movie?
Yeah.
I know it's a, like, you know what I'm saying, like a classic, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
black movie, and about, you know, I forget all the details about, but I've seen it once and I know about it, and I should watch it again. So I think it's a dope reference. You know what I mean?
And two parts about that. One, I think, and I didn't acknowledge this when we were young people, but remember when it was on IMIB, it was on Bloom Mind State, and Pa said, "Fuck being hard, Pasta News is complicated."
Mm-hmm.
And like thinking about now what that means when all the music and culture have come out of looking at the complexities of Black life, and how a rapper, an artist, was not afraid to say that in times when it wasn't kind of cool to say you were complicated.
Yeah.
You know what
Definitely.
I mean? And that kind of like self-awareness. And then also there's a part on the record for those, I suggest folks listen to it, the intro with Giancarlo Esposito, that I think is maybe one of the better intros I've heard in the last 10 to 20 years, frankly. Just around all the people on the record, and goes into the whole Cabin in the Sky concept around loss and people. And, you know, so it I think it's worth it for people not to just go listen to that, but please go stream it and give them, I don't know, a cent.
Yeah,
After you listen to the entire record, give a penny.
Listen to a record, and if you could go buy it on another platform.
Yeah, you can go buy it, you go get a record player and buy it.
You know?
Like, you know, and it really, one of the reasons that I was drawing this up was actually because they opened up a pop-up in New York this weekend. So like all of the artists came to the pop-up. So Nas, De La, Ghost, Red. So they all went to the pop-up to support the mass appeal pop-up, again, because the money is in the actual merchandise. The money's in all the things that are around the music, not necessarily music per se.
And not to give y'all all the justice, notions that'll be of value in the future. I'm gonna save a thought. That's right. I'm gonna conceal something. I'm gonna keep it, save it for later. Talk to Majestic when y'all ain't around. You know what I'm saying? But I have some ideas about these sorts of things. You know what I'm saying?
So, deep degree to one of 40 rolled around because he was not paid a rap.
Go tell the power paper. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm out here. But yeah, that's me. That's me. So in our last bit of time, anything else you want to add on with that? I think you hit it on the head. And then this is so you share. I share. Did I share? I shared.
You shared it with me. Yeah.
There's a brother. What's the brother? Let me actually look real quick, because I do think it's appropriate, especially in this day and age, to say at least where you could get the at, and I'll see if I can locate his brother Dangerfield Media. I think his brother's a comedian. I think he's out of the Houston area.
Houston.
Great little Desmond Dangerfield. Shout out to him. He always drops some lovely, well produced pieces. But he had a piece, and it was speaking about going to like conferences and like these sort of conference and learning events, especially ones that may frame them as like, learning, this entrepreneurial empowerment event or innovation meeting, and like, you know what I mean? And you go, and I will step on the whole piece. I will, like I said, I put the link in the show notes. People could go find the post. But I think it did strike a chord of, I think we and you both, especially being in the space of, doing public policy, public advocacy, engagement around, people doing stuff that you either hear of or you get invited to, or sometimes it's sometime along the way, even in our own journey to do something, you've been to an event that framed itself as come out and like get empowered to like take your business to the next level. And then, and not even just on some like that it's like a secret multi-level marketing meeting, but on some like everyone's getting paid at the event, but you're not actually maybe getting out of the event what you came for. Right. And this interesting moment we're in with like events and that sometimes these things become these moments to create content for social media or for sharing. And like this, that's particularly like almost the economy that is generated around training or speaking to train or motivate people to do something, in whether that be like direct business, entrepreneurship, or even community organizing and some other fronts that have then also almost become this cottage industry of like we're not actually getting out of this experience the thing that we signed up for. and or you didn't actually give me concrete details. Like you kind of told me, oh, you got to make a network, you got to connect, you got to build strong bridges and have positional marketing. But then also there's some as we would like to say some foofy stuff out there. There's some you're gonna manifest, you're gonna focus hard, and it'll all come together. And but it's like no, I need some critical steps to get to an outcome. And so I wanted to hear some of your thoughts just on that, like some of the notions the brother hit on in that, and then we can go from there.
I had some things to say about this, Justice. I want to let you know in advance. I had some things to think about this.
Okay,
a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot of stuff that happened to Black folks and original communities from the pandemic. I think we rationalize and normalize shiesties, that the young people wear, right? And we haven't gotten away from it. And sometimes I still see people on buses with face coverings, which is fine if they think they're going to get sick. But then I can't tell this other kid to can't cover his face when everybody wearing face coverings. So that's one. Yeah, and I think we just created a situation, understanding it was a public health issue, but we just created something that has lived far beyond the public health conditions that we found ourselves living in, right? That's one of the things. Two was the predatory use of mid-level marketing, which always rears its head every 15 years anyway. Before it was what's the big company? Not this actual company, not Mary Kay, but Mary Kay and those kind of companies that had the mid-level market. You have other company like, oh, you could sell that Tahitian juice, noni juice. Right? Remember that was out. I was out for a minute. Then before you could sell something in the 80s. My mom and them got jerked because they thought they was getting to the top of the pyramid, but then the joint went bust right before that, and the brother that was from the NOI. I'm not playing the NOI about this, but there was a brother from the NOI that got all of our money right before the thing went bust. And then you saw it with Susu's, right? And it was like everybody putting money in, and it was a bastardization because, again, I want to note that these models of economic self-help and uplift are hundreds and thousands of years old. So I don't want to act like a Susu is inherently wrong. Not at all.
Yeah.
The use of how some people were doing it is wrong. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think the time when we had nothing but time to be online, I think some of us have not come off of that since we were experiencing that. So the whole idea of being able to sell you that if you get access to this information, that you're going to be able to go ahead and make your money doing this. And I already made my money, but I just want to show you.
I'm going to put you down.
I want to know.
I want to give back.
If someone made their money doing something else, they're not charging you $500 because they've made far more money than worried about just thinking $500 coming to this event. If they charge you to tell you something, they have not nearly been as successful as you think they have. Right? There are people who do things just to tell people. Sometimes it's tax write-offs, tax shelters. There's a lot of different reasons people do that kind of stuff. But it ain't that they need your money. And so we have this system of influencers, of house flippers, of trainers, and like all these models of like help of, projecting this idea of helping Black folks with economic freedom. I'm saying in the individual, not a collective. We can interrogate all of that. But like, and so now we've created this cottage industry of this conference. It's $750. It's slickly produced. Somebody gets on, like you said, they tell you positive messages. It's a fireside chat. And then they tell you to network with each other.
Yeah, or we're gonna plug you into the network, or like
we're gonna plug you into the
get
network.
onto the network.
So it's like a funny thing that dude did, but it speaks to a broader challenge around how information is transferred in our communities. It speaks to, we know, and the reality of it is when people help other people do well, that's because of your networks. That's not because of no money you spent. I mean, you might have spent money taking people somewhere, going to an event. All that is in play. But, the people who want the best for you or want to share information don't want money for sharing your information. You're a part of their community. So it kind of feels like this astroturfing of community for financial wellness versus that's not actually how the thing works. But we bought into like, that's how it works. And so that's my biggest concern about it. And so we'll get to a point where people will expect to have to pay for information, versus putting themselves in relation and in community with those who do those things and building that community.
And it's this, it's akin again to that idea that like, you're not getting to where you need to go, or we're not doing as well as we could be just due to this simple like lack of information, like lack of knowledge about this one thing. As soon as we get one of these, you'll just take off, and all you gotta do is come to our seminar, and we're gonna get you empowered to take off and get you an LLC, get your business, and it's the things, right? Like this idea that there's a mass space to go, or if you pay what looks like someone that's successful, that then you're going to learn the things that you need to know, kind of obscuring the reality that your method of inquiry of how you're doing what you're doing is probably the most likely way you'll actually get to do better at your business, right? Like, like things that you can get out of some pretty good like books about entrepreneurship that would go like, hey man, like what's your target? Like what's your motto? Like why should someone buy this service or product that you're making? Like a very simple question where you're like, well, because it's awesome that I'm doing it. Because you're doing it, or because they need it or they want it. Like stuff that if you were in a place like, a training experience you used to do like Nifty back in the day, or any number of more explicitly about like how you do the business part, and not the, you just need to be motivated, or you need to be powered, or you need to feel, look at this fancy car they parked out front. Like any of that stuff that then is like, you're actually being attracted to the outcomes or the perceived outcomes of the thing that you're doing, not the nuts and bolts of learning about a business. It's an interesting conversation I had with a cat out here that's a steak shop out here called Steakadelphia, and one of the folks that own it, or like he's tangentially like from the Philadelphia, or lived in the Philadelphia area. But one of the cats that runs the shop, he's like, he learned all about the steak shop business from working in some shops, like the person that founded this, and so he knows the nuts and bolts of how to run this shop, and the details around running any type of food business get into like buying the right amount of product so that margins are tight, and your permits, and it's like it's not stuff like you need appropriate level of motivation. It actually is pretty technical, and like knowing your market and other things that are not filthy and like, ooh, I feel so good about my business. And you can learn it in that context where you've learned it by working in shops and the people that run the shops teaching you how they've built their business and like start teaching you the back end stuff and how they do their books and how they find sources for materials, very specific. But then when you hear sometimes people talk about like, what we need to do, it'll be all this like vagaries and like, cause like they're not telling us everything we need to know about how business works, So we gotta come, we're gonna get you plugged in, we're gonna get you empowered, brother. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna make sure you can use your masculinity, you know what I'm saying, to move the community to the next level. You know what I'm saying? They start doing all of that, because I was doing a couple accents there about, you might have thought I was speaking to the ladies. And it's like, nah, some of y'all start that, because the brothers, we got to be providers, you know what I'm saying? So we going to get here and with our do some push-ups and stuff. It's like, yo, it ain't that hard to do many of the things that people may aspire to do, but you do need to know, like sometimes you do need coaching, right? Sometimes you do need access to people. But I've learned in my life that you get much more by asking someone who knows. If you're earnest, they're more than likely can't wait to tell somebody that really wants to do it. Right. They don't want to talk to somebody who's going to play games with their time. But if you're really like, no, I've been sitting in the lab and I've been learning about this particular industry and I've seen you in this industry and I'm really trying to do this next thing, I almost guarantee you will find more people that will be happy to help you for free or happy to be like, hey, I'm going to help you for free now, but if we're going to do more, let's partner on something.
That's right.
Not give me $500 out front and come to our thing at the Waldorf at the Holiday Inn or maybe a nicer hotel like the Renaissance. I don't know. Renaissance or the Aloft back room. You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna have a conference room. Like more than likely, some of the people who are most willing to help you, and even people I will even say it. Because I've dabbled and looked into doing some different business things here over the years, and there's people that have offered like, just if you think you want to do something, I'll be happy to talk to you, tell you, XYD or where to start or what to do. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting to see this come back in this particular time frame because of like, and I think I appreciate that you phrased it post-pandemic because it has become this thing where, there also is the spectacle of what the event looks like on the internet that becomes a part of hosting the event. Because people can see the images and people with nice clothes and good lighting and fancy. It's like, oh man, they are really building a business. Look at them. And it's like, depending on what the business does, there's a good brother I enjoy. He's farming wild beige, and on TikTok. And he does he's been farming business, and some people don't feel him because he's said some things to be like, look, some of y'all get sold a fantasy dream about opening a small farm. You ain't never gonna make the money you think you're gonna make, and it ain't gonna work the way you think it's gonna work. But his thing is like, don't not do it. Just know what you're actually getting into trying to start a farming business and the scale and the nature of actually making food for thousands and thousands of people. Even if you're like, I just want to do a small farm. It's not that simple. And it's better that someone be honest with you about what it actually looks like to do a thing than to be like, nah, man, just come to this seminar. We having a registration. We're going to waive registration for you because, you're in the select so-and-so crew and we think it's going to be, we really want you to be there, brother. But then when you get there, we're going to have this other meeting. We're going to get it to the select.
You can come to the one meeting.
We're going to get a mastermind group together.
Because we wanted you to be here, but the second meeting, we do got to charge because it's
you got to put a little something on it.
So quiet.
I mean? And it's almost like, it's sad to see it like the reinvention of like, they make all their money by selling the book about making the money rather than actually running, being because you're in this other business that maybe does something more substantial. It's just like, yeah, we make all our money by selling these workbooks about making money.
And I think, for me, I think a lot about the trauma of dashed hopes. I've really been processing more about like the hope economy and people that, when Jesse Jackson was saying up with hope and down with dope and, people were saying that I was saying to a brother the other day who runs a really important program out here saying the amount of young dudes in this case who are deeply involved in street life is a relatively small group of people at any moment. Yeah. Like it's not a big group of people.
Yeah. That are really, especially that are really in it, not sort of
not adjacent.
Like window shopping, like going through every once in a while, kind of ending up there.
Yeah, not adjacent, but like willing to get active at any moment, anytime. Mm-hmm. There's far more young men who are depressed and far more young people whose dreams have been dashed and feel like they can't be successful than there are active street guys. So if we were saying, what's the bigger issue in our community? I'm actually going to argue there is a bigger group of people who just are willing to wallow in mediocrity, but then also, and I don't mean mediocrity because I think they're mediocre. I'm saying in the sense of just being like, man, I can only do what I can do. They ain't gonna give me nothing. I can't win. Right. And that detachment then does lead sometimes to drugs. It does lead to the disassociation with family. It does lead to not parenting your children in a certain way. And so a lot of times the hope and dreams that brothers, and I'm going to, but brothers and sisters, for the context for this, is that like, yo, for 800, man, I can tell you how to flip a house. I'm going to tell you everything how to do.
And and you're like, all right, man, like he going to put me on to something real.
Put me on 800, then you get there and he start telling you, and then you be like, okay, you told me. And he be like, yeah, but if you want to learn where to buy the drywall from, that's going to be another 500.
Right. You gotta raise up because you gotta become part of our collaborative. See, it's like a collaborative and we be sharing information. You know what I'm saying? And it's like some other meetings you come to, meet some real powerful people really getting it together,
And so then by that time,
give you the little side nod.
Give that look, yeah. We get to it, brother. You know what I'm saying? We ain't vowing no poverty and all that kind of shit. So then it don't work. And now he don't believe in systems or people of knowledge. He don't believe in systems and people that bring information to the table. Right. And then that becomes a far more malignant idea amongst people. And so I think the brother obviously did it for, like it was done in jest, but it wasn't a joke.
Yeah, it's serious.
You know what I mean? It's serious. And it's kind of like it touches on this influencer culture that has taken over, that has began to sell people ideas without the process of getting to them. So we got to really just be intentional about making sure that, while we present the look of it, we also got to present how you get to it. And then again, how do we create community where those resources, those things are there for people, and they do understand that a lot of it isn't going to be sexy. And it isn't just grind culture. It's like a lot of it is things that you got to do to be able to create the conditions for yourself, man. So yeah, that's my take.
That's me. The only thing I add on is always, I think, and I am much more concerned similarly as you framed there. Like it's like in this talk about young people and slightly older but still young to me people. They're like, oh well, everybody, don't got to go to college. You can get a trade. You can get it this. You can get that. I am more concerned that there's probably more people that are just sort of finding somewhere to work or a thing to do to make some money that is not a part of something where they're really developing not developing the foundation for them to do whatever things their life wants it to be. Like they're not actually experiencing the self-efficacy to get the outcomes that then would give them that esteem and that positive sense about the world. Because esteem always has to be attached to self-efficacy. And when we train people to think and convince them that you should just feel good without having evidence that, while your experiential day-to-day activity does not give you evidence that it's going well, right? It's like, no, you're lying to them. And then further, when people are experiencing something or relive sharing about like trying to do something and it not working and not having a point where you can then go, I can take some action to work on where it went wrong, you actually just reinforce the harm from the original not having the thing go bad. So it's like if you get up and complain about, man, I wanted this certain job and the job didn't work out, and all you do is complain about the job every week, that went, but the business you was trying to start that didn't go bad, it just gets worse until you have a moment to say what you felt about that moment and then go, here's what I can do different so that I can, the next one will be better. Here's what I learned from when, that dude got me for that money when I went for that trade, and I'm going to accept he got me for that money. But the reality of flipping houses is still a thing can be a real way to make a living and buy, build real estate or whatever you're doing. Like that's not the experience you had was bad, but the actual thing it could be done differently. But you're going to need to learn and also deal with your own feelings about that negative thing that happened to you or you experienced or that harm. So yeah, y'all stop lying to people though. Stop, you know what I mean? Be sending people damn flyers to come to your entrepreneurial empowerment event, and they gonna leave with is a dope swag bag. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't leave swag
bags. Picture of somebody who said that they own property all over the city.
Yeah, all over. Yeah,
but they don't tell you.
I'm in 7 states.
Frankly, they don't tell you how they got their money to get the money. And I ain't in nobody's pocket. Don't tell them how he got his money, and then you got to go get a hard money loan at a 20%, you know what I'm saying, 15, 20% interest. That look and feel different, right?
Yeah,
we got to
absolutely.
But part of teaching is leveling with people, good, bad, or indifferent. So
absolutely,
yes, sir.
All right. So with that, I think that's square business. Anything for the good of the order?
The order is good. 1, 2, and 3, baby.
All right. So with that, we'll say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. Good Brothers is a part of the Ask Your Old Head podcast feed. And you can support the podcast by rating, subscribing, sharing, and listening. And doing all that wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also support by searching Justice Rajee on Patreon and becoming a patron. And you can support my greater creative works and visions and whatnot, and the many things that are to come. So be safe out there. Don't take any wood nickels. Don't stand up with a rowboat. You know what I'm saying? Be kind to your neighbors. Look out for one another. You know what I mean? Stay sucker free as we head into 2026. So with that, I say peace.